What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today I'm going to be doing a Traptrix deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an extremely powerful deck that's super fun to play and can easily control the board with all your awesome trap hole cards. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting your requested deck profile every single month to your Patreon. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Traptrix Marmelio. Traptrix Marmelio is one of the most powerful normal summons in the entire deck. This card has the ability that when this card is normal summon, you can add a whole normal trap card from your deck to your hand, which is a great effect to help us search out our copy of Haltia, and just a really powerful card overall. And this card also has the ability this card is special summon, target a spell or trap card that your opponent controls, and destroy it, making this card basically a walking MST. We then play 3 copies of Traptrix Mantis. Mantis is basically the Stratos of the deck and is also a great normal summon because when this card is normal summon, you get to add a Traptrix monster from your deck to your hand, which is an awesome effect. And it also has a really cool ability that once per turn, quick effect, you can target a set spell or trap that you control and return it back to the hand, then set a spell or trap from your hand to help your cards have protection that just in case your opponent targets them with a card effect to be able to destroy them or banish them, you can actually just bounce them back to your hand and then reset them to your side of the field, which is really nice. We then play 3 copies of Traptrix Pudica. Traptrix Pudica is awesome in this deck because this card helps you search out your copy of Traptrix Garden, which is our main field spell. It's just a really good card overall in this build because it also has the ability, if this card is special summon, you can target a special summon monster that your opponent controls and banish it. Also, during the next standby phase, your opponent can special summon one of their banished monsters, which is actually a pretty cool ability that you can get monsters off the field with this card's effect. We then play 2 copies of Dionia. Dionia is a really cool card for this build because this card has some really awesome effects that when this card is normal summon, you can target a Traptrix monster in your graveyard and special summon that target in defense position to get you an additional monster out on your side of the field. And when this card is special summon, you can actually target a whole normal trap card in your graveyard and set that target, but banish it during the end phase of your next turn if it's still on the field, which helps you recover your resources back to your side of the field so you can keep going in for plays. We then play 2 copies of Arachnacampa. Arachnacampa is an awesome extender in this build because this card has the ability that during your main phase, if you control a Traptrix monster, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand, but it locks you into special summoning from the extract for the rest turn except for insect and plant monsters, which is not that big of a deal because it's pretty much all we're summoning anyways. We then play a single copy of Vesiculo. Vesiculo is also a great extender in the deck, and I really like this card as a one-of in the build because it has a really powerful ability that lets you send a set trap card that you control to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand, which is just a really awesome effect just to instantly get this card out on your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Parallel XZ. Parallel XZ is one of the most powerful cards in the entire build because if you link summon into your copy of Sarah, you can instantly special summon this card out to your side of the field, and then special summon another copy of Parallel XZ from the deck. They both become level 4, and they both go to 1,000 attack and defense points, but it gets you 2 level 4s on your side of the field, so you can go in for your copy of Rafflesia. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is really good just to stop your opponent from touching the deck. We then play 3 copies of Drollin Lockbird. Drollin Lockbird is really good in this build, especially for a surprise tech card we're playing the extract, but this card helps out a lot in the build just to basically stop your opponent from searching for the rest of the turn. And I have a super awesome tech card in the extract that you can use with this card to deal with your opponent's entire hand all at once. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Traptrix Garden. This card is just a good one-up in the build because we can search this card off of Pudica, and it has the ability that during your main phase, you can normal summon a Traptrix monster in addition to your normal summoner set, which helps out a lot in this build just to get an additional monster on your side of the field. It also has a really cool ability that if one of your insect or plant monsters you control would be destroyed by battle each turn, it is not destroyed, which is a really cool ability, and you can also manage a monster you control to special summon a Traptrix monster from your hand or grave, which helps out a lot in this deck to be able to get the exact one you want on your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Pot of Prosperity is a great 3-of in the build because we don't need everything in the extract, and this card helps out a lot just to help us dig into the deck for the exact cards that we need. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get in to the traps. So for the traps, guys, we're going to start with a single copy of Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare. This card is a really good one-up in the deck that has the ability that when a monster that your opponent controls that was special summoned this turn activates its effect, negate that effect, and if you destroy that card. We then play a single copy of Terrifying Trap Hole Nightmare. I absolutely love this card because it helps out so much in the deck that if your opponent has special summon a monsters this turn, target one monster that your opponent controls with 2,000 or more attack and destroy it. Then, if you have a whole normal trap card in your graveyard, you can banish one monster from your opponent's graveyard as well, which is an insane effect just to deal with cards in your opponent's graveyard with this card. We then play a single copy of Grave Trap Hole. I feel like one is really all you need for this card, but this card is really good in the deck because when your opponent activates a monster effect in their hand or grave, or when your opponent's banished monster effect is activated, negate the effect, and if you do, inflict 2,000 points of damage to your opponent, which is great to do burn damage to your opponent while also using this card as a negate. We then play 2 copies of Floodgate Trap Hole. Floodgate Trap Hole is probably the most powerful of the Trap Hole cards because this card has the ability that when your opponent summons a monster, you change an opponent's monster to face down defense position, and if it's changed face down defense position, it cannot change its battle position, which is great to be able to flip your opponent's monsters face down and keep them face down. We then play 3 copies of Holtia. Holtia is really good in this deck as a 3-up. This card is actually a trap monster and is a key combo piece in the deck that you can activate this card the turn it was set by discarding one normal trap card, and then you can special summon this card in defense position as a normal monster that's a plant earth level 4 400 attack and 2400 defense, and it's not treated as a trap card, which is a really insane ability. You can also banish this card from your graveyard and then target a Traptrix monster in your grave and special summon it, which works really well during your opponent's turn to be able to summon back your copy of Pudica to be able to get Pudica's ability to go off. We then play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Impermanence is just really good in this deck to be able to stop your opponent's monster effects and is a really awesome card overall to set to your side of the field and lock down entire columns of spells and traps. We then play 3 copies of Evenly Matched. Evenly Matched is insane in this deck because this card just helps out a lot for our going second games to be able to break your opponent's board so we can establish a really good board to make sure that our opponent's not going to be able to play through anymore. And this card is just really good overall in this deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get in to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start off with Traptrix Sarah. This card is the most important card in the entire extra deck, and it's so important for this deck. And as the ability, this card just requires one Traptrix monster to make this card, so any normal summon makes Traptrix Sarah, which is so cool. And it has the ability, if a normal trap card is activated, you can special summon a Traptrix monster from your deck with a different name than the cards that you control, and if you control a Traptrix monster and its effect is activated, you can set a whole normal trap card directly from your deck, and you can activate both of those effects in the same turn, which is absolutely broken. This card is definitely a 3-of in the deck, and a card you want to turbo out to your side of the field as quickly as possible. We then play a single copy of Adipus. Adipus is just a really good 1-of in the deck because this card has the ability, this card's link summon, or this link summon monster is unaffected by trap effects, and all Traptrix monsters that you control gain 1,000 attack while you have a normal trap in your graveyard, which is really good to help you just OTK your opponent, is to make your Traptrix monsters really big. And also once per turn, you can target face-up cards that your opponent controls up to the number of insect and plant monsters that you control and negate their effects until the end of the turn, then apply the effect that you get to banish a normal trap from your graveyard, and if you do, destroy one of those targeted face-up cards, which is a really cool ability. We then play a single copy of Rafflesia. Rafflesia can basically copy the effects of any of your trap hole cards by sending them from your deck to the graveyard once they meet their requirements, which is a really insane ability. We then play a single copy of Pangicula. Pangicula is a basically Rhoda for the deck, and this card is really good because when this card is a material, it's unaffected by trap effects and the activated effects of other monsters with the same type as this card's materials, which is a really cool ability that this card has. It also has the ability you can detach a material from this card to add a Traptrix monster from your deck to your hand, and if a monster owned by your opponent is sent to the grave or banished by the card effect, except during the damage step, then you can attach one of those monsters to this card as a material, which is really cool to be able to do. We then play a single copy of Alamirez. Alamirez is a good one-up as well in the deck that has the ability you can detach two materials from this card to special summon a level 4 insect or plant monster from the grave, and if your opponent's monster leaves the field because of a card effect and is now in the graveyard or banished except during the damage step, then you can detach a material from this card and then target one of those monsters and special summon it to your side of the field so you can bring back your opponent's monsters to your side of the field. And this card is amazing in the deck. It's actually one of my favorite Traptrix monsters. We then play a single copy of Time Thief Redoer. Time Thief Redoer is definitely a one-up in the build because you can make this card with Pangicula plus any other monster to get its other effects off, which is really nice in this deck because you always want a trap card on this card because you can actually detach a trap card from this card to place one face-up card on your opponent controls back on top of their deck, which is a great ability for this card to have. And this card is one of the most powerful boss monsters in the entire deck. It's also during the standby phase, you attach the top card of your opponent's deck to this card, which helps you basically disrupt your opponent's strategy, which is really nice. We then play a single copy of Baguska just in case we need to slow the game down. This card helps out a lot. We then play a single copy of Abyss Dweller. Abyss Dweller is amazing in this deck to be able to lock down the graveyard. We then play a single copy of Ptolemaeus. Ptolemaeus is really good in this build because it helps out a lot in the deck to help us make our copy of Durandal, which is actually how we deal with our opponent's entire hand all at once with Droll and Lockbird. This card has the ability that once per turn, during either player's turn, you can activate one of these effects, that you can actually detach a material from this card, and each player with a hand shuffles their entire hand in the deck and then draws the same number of cards that was shuffled into the deck, which is really cool to be able to use this card with Ptolemaeus and Droll to basically just deal with your opponent's entire hand, because if you Droll your opponent and use this card's ability, it'll actually make it so they won't draw any cards and it'll deal with their entire hand all at once. But this card is insane as well because when a monster effect is activated on the field or when a normal spell or trap card is activated, you can detach a material from this card and the activated effect becomes destroy a spell or trap that your opponent controls, which can be a pretty neat ability just to use this card almost like a negate. We then play a single copy of Constellar Diamond. This card just deals with dark monsters, and it's really good in the deck to be able to make on top of your copy of Ptolemaeus just in case you need to, and it's a really good option in this deck. Because it has the ability during your main phase 2, you can actually XZ summon this card using a Tellarknight XZ monster that you control as a material, which is a really cool ability. And when this card has an XZ material, neither player can send cards from their deck to the graveyard, and any card that is returned from the graveyard to the hand is banished instead. And also, during either player's turn, when an opponent's dark monster activates its effect, you can detach a material from this card to negate the activation of Do Destroy It, which is a really cool effect. We then play a single copy of Double A Zeus just in case we need to board wipe the field because we are playing an XZ based strategy. And then finally play a single copy of Typhon. Typhon just belongs in just about any deck, and it's really good in this build to basically just deal with your opponent. You can make it so easily in this build, or basically any deck at all. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Traptrix before, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's a really powerful deck that's going to surprise a lot of your opponents, especially if you go first and you just establish a really crazy board. If you go second, you can just evenly match your opponent, which is really cool because we actually main deck evenly match, which is hilarious because you need a going second strategy for this deck. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.